Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my Thursday live stream where we talk about photography and I try to answer any questions you might have about Olympus cameras or photo editing and photography in general. But it's also about community, right? Getting together and just kind of hanging out with some like-minded people and um, talking about what's new and what's going on. And it is April Fool's Day, so I don't have any I don't do April Fool's jokes and things like that, but I did see one from Jimmy this morning, which when you see something, he has a video out this morning for new cameras coming out from Olympus or OMDS. So check that out. I mean, it's it's that time of year, um, but it would be nice to see some announcements soon about what they have in mind. At least say, yeah, it's going to be an OMD or it's going to be a new Pen F2 or it's going to be an EM1X, something, right? Kind of keep our appetites going until it does arrive. Ellie's here. Hi. And her feet are muddy, of course, because it was raining yesterday. All right, get down. But we don't care about that, right? If you own a dog, you know what I'm talking about. And I might have to throw her out. She's getting too feisty here. But anyhow, hopefully everybody can see and hear me okay. Let me check the chat section. Good morning. Oh, Rick is here. Hey, Rick, how are you? How's Magrat holding up? Hope she's doing well. And Scott is here, and John Yutze, good to see you. Roberto, as always, and Rob Shoot Photos. Hey, the macro guy. Wow, I saw your upside down spider or whatever bug picture on your Instagram. I mean, I just can't believe I can believe it, but you've improved so much. You went from like just a guy with a 60 millimeter macro lens to virtually a professional macro photographer. Um, and, you know, it's amazing. I saw a macro shot of some spider that looks like Nemo. If you look, it's like one of the little jumping spiders, but it has colors like that fish in Nemo, Finding Nemo movie. I thought that was pretty cool. I can't remember where I saw that, but I'm sure if you Google it, spider that looks like Nemo, you'll see it. And oh, Matt's here, Steve G, Peter, good to see you. And it looks like Peter Forsgard has a live stream this afternoon, a couple hours after mine finishes, and he's going to have a wildlife photographer on. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully, I can make that. Um, but if not, I highly recommend you guys check it out. Peter doesn't do live streams often, but when he does, it's I think it's worth checking out. And I see Danny Drake, Tom Roberts, hello. And Scott says, I would like to know thoughts on the 75 to 300 482 lens for astro and moon photography. Moon photography, it's not bad, actually. It's pretty good. Uh, where's my mouse? I'll show you one I did. Single shot using that lens. I was on a tripod, and it wasn't a high-res shot mode or anything, just on a tripod shooting the moon. And then for astro, I'm still like for shooting nebulas and things like that. I still don't have the skill set to do that properly with any lens, to be honest. And I'm not in a good location for that right now. But I will let you know in a couple of weeks because I'm going to go up and meet with Ben, who I had a live stream with, a few weeks ago about astrophotography, and he's an excellent astrophotographer. And I'm going to bring that lens with me and see what his thoughts are on it. But let me show you a moonshot I did not too long ago. Like I said, it's a single shot. I'm going to pull it up. Hopefully I flagged it. I did not flag it. Let me try first quarter. Of course, I got to remember to flag the photos that I really like in Lightroom. You know, you can flag these things. Unless I did the edit on my other computer. Yeah, this is a single shot. Okay. Oh, I changed my thing here. Okay. So this is a single shot, and when I zoom in, it looks pretty good, right? This is just, and this was at 240 millimeters, ISO 200 f8, 1/125th of a second. And this is without any editing applied, and it looks really good already. Now, let me flag it now while I'm here. So I was in aperture priority, so I just dialed in a -1 exposure comp. And I've done a better one since this. I've taken this one with this lens. Even better than this, because I was slightly off out of focus here. I don't know if I can, let me punch in 200%. I was slightly out of focus and slightly overexposed. I think I had to dial in a little bit more exposure comp. Let me see if I have another one. I think this one. Oh no, this one is when I tried to stack it in Photoshop. Like I stacked 60 images together. It didn't come out too good, or too well, I should say. But I know I did another one. It was with the moon facing the other direction. Oh, I can't find it. I think it's on my other computer. Okay, here's an astro shot. 246 millimeters. This is a single image. And this is, I think, the Orion Nebula. And you can see I got eggshells. I don't have much color here. Even when stacking these would be pointless because I don't have good images even in a single shot. So this is my challenge. The stars are so dim where I live that even the Starry Sky app just doesn't work. You know, the stars are just too dim, and I can't even lock focus. So in my backyard, I have to lock in. Um, I have to focus manually. So let me hide this window. Show this one. So I can't speak to astrophotography like doing stars and nebulas, but for the moon, it's really good. I mean, it's not a pro lens, right? You know, you're going to get better results with if you spend another $1,000, $2,000. Like if you get the 100 to 400, which is $1,500 if you can find it, is excellent. And then of course the 300 f4, which is, you know, with everything tacked on, it's almost 3,000 brand new, still a couple $1,000s used. But for 400 bucks, this is an uh, excellent way to get started in astrophotography and working with different focal lengths. And Ben actually uses the 75 millimeter f1.8, which is used around a $600 lens, maybe 700 or 800 new. I don't know the exact pricing, but he uses that lens to get excellent nebula shots. It's so sharp. That lens is so sharp. I mean, he can crop in and stack and do all the things he does and gets excellent results. If you see his latest video, he has a video on how to get tack sharp moon photos, which I need to watch before I try another moon shot. But the one before that, he has a video on stacking. I'm sorry, what was it? On using the capture software for tethering your astrophotography, tethering your camera to do astrophotography. And he has some excellent nebula photos in that using, I believe that he was using the 75 millimeters. So um, definitely check that out. But if you want to do moon shots, um, I wouldn't buy a lens just for that. It's really good for a lot of other things too. In good light, it's actually pretty sharp lens for the money. So yeah, at 400 bucks, I have no problem recommending it. At the normal price, closer to 600, I'd say, well, might be some might be worth saving up a little more to get a pro lens or something, like a 75 millimeter prime. But yeah, at 400 bucks, yeah, there isn't anything out there that I can think of. Some people say the Panasonic is a little better, but I don't own that lens, and I can't say if it is or not. Okay, and let's see, go back to my streaming window here so I can read the chat. Um, Marcel is here. Hello, Alfonso. Good to see you. And I don't speak Spanish. If that's what you're saying there, I don't know. I'm sorry. And Roberto, Robs. Let's see. It was Weevil. Okay. Um. Oh, is it Friday there? Oh, Good Friday is here. The moon is out. And Errol says it must be April 1st. You were right on time. Oh my God. You're killing me. I heard another good joke this morning. I'll tell you guys in a minute. Um, I vote for let Ellie stay. Strap her on GoPro on her and go. I do have a harness for a GoPro camera. Um, I've done a couple of videos like that just to see how it worked out, but I haven't done anything with it in 2 years. And then it was Weevil for Weevil Wednesday. I don't know what that's in reference to, unless it's that spider we were talking about. And Marsha's here. Hello, Marsha. How's the weather in Florida? And yeah, this was the comment from Errol. Yeah, I was only about a minute late, right? But oh, I'm sorry. Just before I go to the joke, when I was talking about Ben Chappelle, I think that's how you pronounce it, or Chapel. His channel on YouTube is called the Narrowband Channel. So if you search for the Narrowband Channel, you'll see a guy named Ben, and he shoots using Olympus gear astrophotography. So definitely check his channel out. He's finally broken 1,000 subscribers, so I'm really happy for him. He's on his way to passing me up like everybody else has, but that's fine. Um, oh yeah, the joke. So I forget the name of the channel. I was watching this channel. It was a documentary on Edward Steichen. I think that's his name. Where he was a photographer from the 30s up to the 60s or 70s. I forget when he passed away, but he passed away at like age 90 something. It's shocking. Um, just some people in every interview I ever saw of him, he's smoking a cigarette and he lived to like 90 something. I think I got that right. But really, the few interviews they had with him, they had clips of some interviews, were just amazing. If I can find a link to that video, I'll post it here in the chat for you guys. I really enjoyed that clip. It was about a 15-minute documentary on Edward Steichen, and just amazing photography. And it's just it was very inspiring for me because I've been looking into black and white photography this past week. I've been shooting black and white on and off forever, but I've been taking a hard look at it this past weeks or so since I kind of promised doing a tutorial on it. And there's so much to learn. There's so much to learn uh, in black and white. Um, what is it, baby? Hmm? Uh, Okay, so anyway, I started another video on the channel, which wasn't, the video was okay. Uh, I just watched the first 5 minutes of it, and then I kind of lost interest. But oh, let me switch over to my other you can see Ellie a little better. This is my I don't know, other camera I got going. You can see all my setups and everything. But the joke was, how many photographers does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is one. Or not, I'm sorry. How many photographers does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer was 100. One to change the light bulb, 99 photographers to tell you how to do it better. That's so true, you know. But the video was about finding your own style or something, and it is okay. I At least I got that joke out of it, you know. That was about that was about the only thing I really liked. The rest of it was okay. Uh, well, actually, I don't know. I only watched about 5 minutes, and it's like a 15-minute video. All right, let's see what else we got here. I took some moonies with the old Tamara 300. Not too bad. Oh yeah, yeah. I remember you mentioned you had that lens, and that was from Roberto and Thomas Zizalskis from Atlanta, Georgia. Good to see you. 7 degrees C, so that's got to be about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Just doing math in my head. Oh, Peter. Peter. Oh, that's the name of the channel. Thank you, Peter. That's funny. You should bring that up. This is the channel. The photographic eye. That's where I saw the interview with Edward Steichen. So I've only watched that video and the other video about finding your own style, which for me was a pass, but you might really like it. And it looks like he's got documentaries on other photographers that I'm going to watch. So that'll be good. Um, but yes, Peter, that is the channel, the photographic eye. Uh, and Alfonso says perfecto. I know what you're referring to. And Rob Shoots Photo says I've been learning from Innis to Winnis. He did a live Olympus video on macro. Okay, I think I've seen that. And another, Thomas Zazowska also agrees with Peter about the photographic eye channel. What I should do is just pull it up. I'll put a link to it so there's no confusion. Yeah, this dude. Here's a link to the channel. And it's got an intro. Yeah, this is the video I watched. Edward Steichen. And then he's got a bunch of others that I'm going to check out. I really like these. I really like these vintage photos. They just are so. They're really powerful and make and nostalgic, right? There's another guy, Vladimir somebody. Vladimir. I'll show you another one I like. Vladimir. I don't know. Let me put in just black and white. I forget his last name. This guy. Let me put a link to this video. This is great. And I'll show you. This is another really great video. There was a picture in here that inspired me to make. Okay, this is one photo. And if we go to my Instagram, because I went to my portfolio and looked at some old photos I took, and so here's my photo. When I watched this video, I said, you know, I have a photo kind of like this. So I went in and converted my photo to black and white. So this is my photo, and whoops, I'm sorry. And and then he had another one. This one, this one. Okay, so this is a sunflower. So that's what kind of inspired me to do this photo here. I should have made a square photo of it. Um, but it's, you know, the style is very similar, right? It's a different angle of the same of a sunflower, but it's the style is very similar. But he has a lot more dynamic range in his shot. You know, it's very dark here and then very bright here, whereas in mine it's just gray tones to white. I should have made this maybe a little black to more imitate what he was doing here, but this is a little bit more my style because you can see some details in the petals here or the leaves. Um, but anyhow, so so this video kind of inspired me, and there's lots of other great photos in here. Um, like this is cool, this reflection shot, and here's some grass. I was like, that's just grass, but it's appealing somehow. And this is one of those shots where uh, that what's the word I'm looking for? This is one of those shots where there's a lot of chaos in the scene and disorder. There's no composition here at all, right? It's just lights, it's just lighting and lines and depth, right? Just sort of the core elements of black and white photography. And I don't know why I find this one so appealing, but I do. And you know, of course, it's all subjective. This is a typical wide shot, but you notice he's very conscious of his lines, right? Like this boat is leading your eye right into the scene. It's just and you know me, I'm always critical of my own photos. And when I watch these videos, I try to critique their photos, you know, in my head, like what would I do differently? And there's very few photos here that I would change, you know. Just really amazing shots in here. So there's a link to that in the chat for this. So definitely check that out. Uh, okay, let me go back to the chat window, see where we're at. Oh, Rob Shoots Photo says he likes the moonshot I did in my Instagram. Yeah, that was the Photoshop one where I stacked a bunch of images. And those, so what you saw, what I showed you today were actually the individual single images that created that image I posted on Instagram. And then Ian Cooper says, let me see if I can get that on the screen. This is Ian Cooper at 10:13. Oh, I better not fall too far behind. Okay, let me read this now. It says, uh, you said in subsequent comments you kind of were altering your thoughts on the 14 to 150 kit lens, but I can't find any follow-up video. I did not do a follow-up video. What Ian's referring to is I did a comparison of the 14 to 150 kit lens that comes with like the M5 Mark II versus the two kit lenses that I recommend, or a lot of people have, I should say, is the 14 to 42 Olympus and the 40 to 150 Olympus. And in that video, I found that the 14 to 150 was very close to those other two lenses, a little bit weak close up. Like the 14 to 42 did a little better. I can't remember exactly, but I did test that lens again after I made that video because I was getting comments from people saying this lens is better than their other two kit lenses combined. And and lots of comments like that, right? Either through email or comments, whatever. And I was getting better results when I tested the lens again. And after that second test, which I never published a video for, but I did leave in the comments my thoughts. I did talk about when I tested it again. But that lens is as sharp as the other two lenses combined. So you're not losing any image quality going to a 14 to 150 versus having two separate kit lenses, the 14 to 42 and the 40 to 150. That said, my final statement about should you just use those two kit lenses or should you buy a single 14 to 150, my final statement doesn't change. It's all about pricing, right? And the differences are fairly subtle between all those lenses. If you want weather sealing and you don't want to change the lens in the field and you need that kind of range in a single lens because you don't want to swap lenses while you're in the field, it's worth it. It's about $300, in mint condition used. And I think it's worth it for that. If the weather sealing and swapping lenses is not a big deal to you, right? Then don't spend $300. You're fine with your two smaller kit lenses. So I didn't see a point to making a second video just to come up with the same conclusion as I did in the first one. And like I said, even in the video that I made, the differences were fairly subtle anyway. So it wouldn't have been a value add, I think. But since you asked, those are my thoughts and findings when I did test it again, that it is as sharp as the other two lenses across the zoom range. All right. And Marco says, I watched that video of his and he used an app on the Mac that isn't available on the PC. He got great results, but not sure how to replicate under Windows. I think Pip. I have no idea what you're talking about, Marco. I was reading this comment from Marco. I don't know what you're talking about. What video? I'll try and follow up on that if I remember. And I watched that video of his and oh, Roberto has a question. Let me see if I can answer this. I think this is related to the astrophotography, right? You use the time lapse mode in your camera. Don't use custom shutter. That's 10 shots, right? Use a time lapse mode to do it. That's all. Or if you can tether to your computer, because in time lapse mode you're still limited to a 60-second exposure, which is more than enough a lot of times, I think. But if you do tethering, then you can put your camera in bulb mode or something. Like I said, Ben has a video on that you can check out on the narrowband channel. But yeah, that's all it is. Just use the time lapse mode. Um, and George Bacon says, let me see if I can pull that. Oh, Plato's here. Hi, Plato. And Marcia says, it's hot today. Cold front coming in. We're going down to 57 tonight, which is on 57. We're going to get to 49 or 50 today as a high, and then it's going to get to 28 degrees tonight. So we're going to have today and tomorrow is going to be cold. And then it's going to be spring officially. I think starting Friday or Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, Marco. Ellie is a good girl. She's a good dog. And let's see, Victor. Hi, Victor. How are you? I found that when I think you mean when I photo the bright yellow flowers or white flowers, many times no details like no contours. Give me some tricks, if some are, how to take correct photo on bright objects. Basically, you need a flash. Okay, I have a lot of videos on taking pictures of flowers using a flash. So just search my channel for flower photography, and then you'll get much better textures, and you don't have to worry about, the dynamic range as much because the flash will sort of balance that out for you. Um, but if you're trying to do it without flash, really the only way to do it is to just dial in some negative exposure comp. So dial in like a -1 or -2 even. And then you're going to have a very low key dark photo, but the petals will be properly exposed, right? Or bright. And then you do a little post processing, maybe some auto gradation, play with the tone curve to kind of bring the shadows and highlights up. Um, see if I can give you an example. Maybe that sunflower picture I did. Okay. Yeah, this one I didn't have to. You guys can't see this, but I was looking at this photo here. I didn't have to dial in any negative exposure comp, but I think you're asking me about these petals here. Let that render, how they're all sort of overexposed. And if I dial in 2 stops of exposure on this flower, I'd only need to dial in -1 exposure comp. Maybe 2 stops. Now I got good texture and everything. And then what I would do is just push the shadows back up, bring the whites up a little bit. Something like that, right? And now I have pretty decent texture. So I didn't use a flash, or that's too close. I didn't use a flash or anything, and I got pretty good detail. But you're going to have to go for more low-key photo if you're going to have very bright highlights like that, and very dark like leaves and grass and all of that. But when you use a flash, and you'll see my other videos, like let me see, not videos, but let me show you another picture. Here's one where I used the flash, right? Is this the oh, here's the original raw. Let me show you a comparison here. So you can see when I use the flash, it really balances out everything. But the petals are still a bit overexposed, but because I used the flash at an angle, I was able to get a lot more texture in back in post-processing. So and you can see, and this is the 14-150 kit lens, by the way. Oh, it says it right there. You can see I got amazing detail when I use flash. Um, all right, this is a good example. This shot looks like it's overexposed, right? Let's look at the original. Um, let me just save this picture because I'm developing a tutorial on my photo editing and stuff. Let me save this and then reset it. This is the original photo. And what did I do? Did I dial in? I dialed in, you can see here, I dialed in a -1 1/3 exposure comp. And even with that, it's still way too bright. So I ended up cropping in and just taking advantage of that. Let's see. And I ended up with this photo. But what I could have done to kind of mimic what that other photo from Vladimir, just brought the darks in a little bit more. But that's my recommendation there. Um, And let's see, what, I lost my place again. That was at 10:18. Okay, Victor, I hope that helps answer your question. Oh, you guys are looking at my stupid chat window. um, so I'm at 10:18. Casper, hello, Casper. Casper's another awesome macro photographer. You and Rob shoot photos, man. You guys do amazing work. I'm good at typing. What is that in reference to? I type. I mean, I'm a touch type, but I think the fastest I ever got was like 100 words a minute. When I used to care about that stuff. I don't know if that's fast or not, but I remember being pretty proud of that, like getting 100 words per minute. I don't know what my speed is now. Definitely my accuracy is way down. But I used to be able to do accurately 100 words a minute back when I was much younger, like in my early 20s. Um, and Rob Shoot Photos has some tips for Ian. I assume you saw those. Oh, Thomas is asking me what lens was I talking about here. Uh, right now it's on sale brand new for 400 bucks, but it's the 75 to 300 uh, kit lens. I hate to call it a kit lens, but it's their not their premium or pro lens, but it's just the 75 to 300 basic lens. And if you go back later in the stream, you can look at some of the photos I took with it. I showed those in the stream. Um, and Marco has a question here. It says, every pro photographer says, tell a story with your photos, but virtually everything you just shared, hay, grass, etc., doesn't tell a story. They're just nice compositions. True. Um, well, sometimes, yeah, sometimes we're just talking about art, right? For art's sake, or art, photography as an art, or art of photography. Um, and in black and white in particular, you're looking for lines and form and depth and light, and that in of itself is like an abstract, right? It doesn't have a story necessarily, but it's very pleasing to the eye, right? And a lot of photographs are like that we just showed, right? There wasn't really a story. It was really about those other things in composition. And but some of them I think had a story. Like I think the boat, the picture of the boat that we saw in the video leading out to the water. It's sort of an inviting picture. Like the story there is for you to kind of step into the boat and go out into the water. In my mind, I'm not good at telling stories either, to be honest. But with black and white photography, though, particularly when you're trying to get all artsy fartsy about it, sometimes it's about lines and form and depth, textures, and not so much about the story, or a story, I should say. And story type photos, a lot of that you see in like journalism, right? Where the story journalism has, if they're lucky, the composition all falls into play, right? As well as the story. But a lot of times in journalism, it's only the story and there's no compositional elements. Um, a lot of wartime type things, or dramatic tragedies, things like that have, you see a lot in journalism, right? The sad stories. So, you can go anywhere you want with photography, from telling stories like in journalism, or just doing it purely as an art, and capturing, light, texture, depth, form, things like that. Um, I watched a few videos, and this one picture kept coming up. It was a picture of a pepper, just a black and white photo of a pepper. It didn't look like a pepper. And if they didn't say it was a pepper, I wouldn't know it was a pepper. It just was a weird shape. And apparently this photographer has a whole series on that, but this one in particular kept coming up. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't have to tell a story. It just has to be visually pleasing or interesting in some way. And and oh, Rob says I have an eye for black and white and using art. I try. I still have a long, long way to go. I mean, and it's just the more I look into it, like a week ago, before this week started, I felt pretty confident I could do a tutorial on black and white photography because I watched Peters and Maddie's and Robbins to start with, and then I watched a few others, and I was like, I think I got this, right? And then I started outlining it and thinking about how I'm going to talk about black and white photography and how I process them because I really wanted to focus on the processing side of it, particularly in Photoshop and Lightroom. And I was going to do these PowerPoint displays. Another joke I heard. I'm sorry to break up my train of thought, but people that use PowerPoints usually don't have either. I always think about that. So I'm trying. I don't know. So every time I start a PowerPoint, I think about that. And I'm like, why am I making a PowerPoint? Is it really gonna be a good visual aid or a good thing for teaching? But anyway, what was I talking about? See, I knew it. I knew I would lose my train of thought. But yeah, so I watched a few videos. I started doing these outlines and saying, okay, when you look at color, saturation doesn't really matter, but you start looking for the tones, and different colors have different tones when they're converted to black and white. We got red channel, green channel, and then there's a bunch of sliders in Lightroom. And I was going to kind of go through all the academic side of black and white photography and the processing, how to sharpen them, how to do low contrast, high contrast, how to not over sharpen without getting halos. I mean, there's all kinds of things, right? It was very academic. So I started digging more into other videos. I watch other videos to kind of see how they teach it, and then I try and make it my own, right? Like, how would I teach the same thing? Because, that's everybody has to have their own voice. Um, but I started running into these videos like this Edward Steichen, the Vladimir guy, and a bunch of others. I have binge watched probably about 40 or 50 videos this week on black and white photography, and and then I maybe I'm overthinking it. I should just make a few 10-minute videos about black and white and just be done with it. But I feel like I really want my take my videos this year to another level, right? And if you watch my videos, and I really appreciate all the compliments, and a lot of you guys have been viewers a long, long time of my channel. But there's only a few videos that I felt were pretty epic, from my point of view, that I thought were really good. And most of the other ones I made were just simple tutorials, how-tos, and um, deep dives, answering questions. And I do my best on those. I mean, I can always do better. When I watch them over, I'm like, oh, I could have done that better. But I I feel like I still haven't found my voice here on YouTube to my viewers. Other than these live streams, my voice is on for a couple hours, 2, 3 times a week now. But I don't feel like I've had my voice where I'm really telling you from my soul, my heart, what I really enjoy about photography. And that's kind of where I want to go this year is get a little bit more deep into my motivations, my inspirations, my soul for photography, right? And and every video I make, I want to try to convey that part of my story in photography into every tutorial. So I don't know. It just so that's why it's taken me a little longer. I thought I'd be cranking out videos 2, 3 a week at this point because now that my neck is feeling better, I can sit down here and crank out tutorials left and right. Like, what's this button for? Well, how do you do this? What does this mean, right? And I'm teaching a lot of the technical things, which is very important to understand how your camera works, what it's capable of, and what its limits are. And then it's up to you to take those that knowledge and create your images, right? But I I don't know. I just got this yearning to do more with my videos and make them more personal to me. And it may not get as many views, right? It may not be as popular as some of my older videos, which are strictly tutorials, very academic type videos. But I think I'll get more, I think I'll get more out of it for myself and grow more as a person, which in turn hopefully will help others and inspire others, right? Uh, anyway, I don't know why I've been talking about that for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I forget what the question was. What was the question? You have an eye for black and white. So thanks, Rob. That was a 10-minute non-answer, but there you go. Thanks for the compliment. Um, and let's see. Let me scroll up to where I left off. Marco says, I always struggle with the advice to tell a story. Yeah, me too. Hopefully I answered that with my about black and white photography. With color photography, sometimes the photo can be all about the color, right? Very like very strong reds, very strong greens or blues, whatever the subject might be a woman in a red dress against, say, um, a desert or a beach, right? And converting that to black and white would not be as interesting as the color because the image is all about the color. Or you have a beautiful golden yellow wheat field with a deep, rich blue sky. You have your complementary colors, you have an interesting textures and the clouds and the wheat field, and then maybe you have a barn or whatever, a tractor, something in the wheat field. Now you have a story. But the story itself is not that interesting. It's just the color and the textures in the in the image. Because even in color photography, you're still looking for lines and form and texture and depth and lighting, right? Those things apply to colors as much as it does to black and white. But with color, you add that additional element of color. And whatever the subject is, sometimes the subject can be interesting, but the main thing about the image is the color itself, right? Is what tells the story. The colors tell the story about the photo, and not so much the subject itself. Um, so that's yeah. So that was Marco's question. I forgot to put it up. Um, and Corna's here. Hello, Corna. Does anybody know the channel Raoul Pop? Big Ollie fan. He says you can focus closer than an announced distance by using manual focus. I seriously doubt it. I've never heard of his channel, but oh, hi, Robert Welsh. Good to see you. Um, all right, let's take a 17. Let's test that theory. Let me switch over to my. So I'm going to I'm going to focus on my keyboard here as close as I can. That's okay. I can focus right about there. I'm going to pull the ring back. Oh, my dying eyes. I can't see if it's in focus. Hold on. That's as close as I can get with manual, is right there. And then if I switch to autofocus, it's the same. Dang, I can get closer with autofocus. Oh, right there. Okay, that's as close as I can get with autofocus. Now with manual focus, on the 17 millimeter, I can't get this close. The closest I can get is, gosh, a couple inches back, about right here. So autofocus, I can actually get, with autofocus, I can get this much closer. So that makes no sense to me. Uh, why is that comment not on the... So I don't know what lens he was using. I think I was showing this comment, right? Yeah. He says you can focus closer than announced by using... Not on the 17. I can tell you that much. I'm going to try one more thing, because what I did is I engaged the clutch. Let me try and do it by wire. Okay. Let me try and do it by wire. So that's about as close as I can get by autofocus. And then I'm going to switch to manual focus by wire. Oh, yeah. All right, let me switch back to autofocus. That's not locking, that's a false. Okay, let me go back to manual. I can get, okay. If I engage the focus clutch, I lose about this much close focusing distance. If I do it focus by wire, manual focus by wire, I gain about this much closer. So okay, Raoul Pop is right on a 17 millimeter lens anyway. So wow, learn something new every day. Interesting. That was a 1029. Let's see. Uh, and here's a comment from Rob. The weakness to the 14-150 is the minimum focus distance on the wide end, but you can get around that by using a minimum focus at 70. Oh, okay. Yeah, so basically zoom in a little bit and you get better magnification. And Scott Memford, the Ben Chappelle video, yes. That is correct. On the narrowband channel. And hey Jeff. Oh, you got your second Pfizer shot. Awesome. Ooh, you know, that reminds me, I'm gonna have some pizza for lunch today. God, I'm so hungry now. Just thinking about it. The comment about the video was regards to Narrowband Channel's video on getting sharp moon photos. Yes. Oh, okay, okay. That was from a long time ago. Now I can't remember what the comment was. But okay. Let me go back up. Marco. I watched that video of his and he uses an app on the Mac that isn't available on the PC. He got great results, but not sure how. I don't remember. I thought he used just Olympus Capture. Oh no, I didn't watch the Sharp Moon photos yet. I'm sorry. I was thinking of the other one. Yeah, I didn't watch the Sharp Moon photos yet, so I have to watch that, and I'll get back to you maybe Sunday on that. And Peter says, I find my focus ring on a 75 to 300 kit lens seems to be stiff. Something other than, is this something other have run into? I have not run into that on mine. Mine is very loose, almost too loose. But yeah, there's hardly any tension at all in it. Um, but yeah, if anybody's had similar issues, let Peter know in the chat section there. And Mr. Vacation, I like the diffused background of the flowers. Oh, thanks. That was from a while ago. God, I'm a half hour behind. I got to talk faster. Thanks, Rob. Uh, Settle my mind. I'm ordering the M5 Mark III with the 14 to 150. Best deal is 899. That's a kick-ass. That's a great deal. Really appreciate your work. Thanks for the grateful, Scott. Awesome. Glad to help, Ian. And Mr. Vacation says, how important is it using the histogram? I find it very confusing. I almost never use the histogram. Almost never personally. I just look at the live view. Now the live view or EVF, right? There's limitations there. If you're using live view boost, there's some limitations. But if you're using if you're plus or minus 3 EV, like if you dial in exposure comp greater than plus or minus 3, you're not going to see the actual exposure or the final image. So those are easy limitations to work within, though. It doesn't affect me, and doesn't affect me at all. So I know a lot of landscape photographers find it extremely important, right? Because they like to use techniques like exposed to the right, exposed to the left. They call it, excuse me, ETTR and ETTL. Uh, so I recommend you watch videos on ETTR and ETTL because that's a very common technique that you need to use your histogram for. And then a lot of people use the histograms to make sure they're not clipping highlights, they're not clipping shadows. None of that's important to me because a lot of times, particularly in high dynamic range scenes, I end up bracketing the shots. And no camera, and I don't care about, it does 16-bit files now I'm hearing with 16, what do you call it, stops of a dynamic range. Ultimately, you're not going to get a good picture if you try and cram in 16 stops of a dynamic range into a single image. Um, so I end up bracketing, which virtually eliminates the need for a histogram for me, right? And because I do real estate photography professionally, and I'm dealing with greater than 16 stops of dynamic range, because I have very bright windows coming in if it's a sunny day, and then I have very dark furniture indoors, and I need it to be exposed properly. So, it's one of those things like I go to, I look at what the weather is on the weather.com website, and that's kind of like the histogram. You get all of this detail and information, wind speed, humidity, highs, lows, you know, all of that stuff, right? But ultimately, I just look out the front door or out the window to see what the weather's like. And that to me is how I do photography is I just look at the EVF and see what the exposure looks like. And if I like it, I take a picture. It doesn't matter what the histogram says and what all those details are to me, right? But if you're trying to get very technical and you want to start employing techniques to maximize your dynamic range, because your camera has dynamic range, it is what it is. But if you want to use all of it, a histogram can help you with that. Uh, and I'm sure there's many other histogram type techniques out there, but I don't really watch those kinds of videos, other than the ETTR, ETTL technique. So if you were to ask me as a beginning photographer, don't worry about the histogram. Just look at the EVF and see what the picture looks like. If you like it, push the button. Okay, that's that to me is more important is telling the story or uh, putting this. And I I just had the discussion with Marco, right, about who cares about the story, but focus on your composition and all the other things about photography, and don't worry about the histogram. Basically, is when you're starting out. And Mr. Vacation says, I love macro. Good. Lots of good macro photographers out there with Olympus cameras. Robin Wong, he kind of specializes in that. And then if you follow Rob Shoot Photos or check out Casper Nyberg on Facebook, you'll definitely find some great macro shots with Olympus gear. Thomas says, without a flash, I go for a 2 exposure bracket, one low key for the flower and one regular for the, yes. Yeah, so again, bracketing, right? If you can, if it's windy, it's hard to bracket. If there's no wind, then you can bracket flowers. But I find a lot of times, especially in the spring, it's very windy, right? Because the weather's changing. So what some people do is they use a coat hanger or wires and a box. They put a box around the flower so that no wind hits it. Then they can bracket their shots or do long exposure or do focus stacking. You can do all kinds of things if you add. What? I don't have any treats. You want a treat? Are you hungry? You want to go out? What is it? None of those words worked. What do you want? Um, question is, how do you like the 7 Artisans lenses? I don't own any, but I've only heard good things about them. For the money, right? $100 for 7 Artisans lens. Some might be more or less than that, 150, 200, but uh, yeah, everybody seems to like them, you know. Uh, but I don't own any myself, so I can't speak personally, but a lot of people like them. Because I have a lot of viewers that tell me about their experience with that lens, and it's all been positive. So if anyone has any feedback from Mr. Vacation, leave him something in the chat section to him about your experience with those lenses. If you have one lens in particular you're interested in, Mr. Vacation, just make another chat comment, an open question to the group, and they can probably help you with that. Uh, and then Rick, how are you? Good afternoon, everyone. Rob Trek, sometimes creating a PowerPoint is useful for getting your own thoughts in order. I sometimes view my PowerPoint as a private aid. Yes. Um, yeah, that's a great point. Um, I have to think about doing that more because I created a PowerPoint for another video I was making, and I ended up not using it, but it was a great exercise in helping me organize my thoughts. Um, and I left it open actually while I was thinking about something. Let me see. Oh, I didn't save it, but let me see. Oh, it's gone. But this is a PowerPoint that I made for one of my videos, right? Um, but I made another PowerPoint for another video that I ended up not using in the video, but it did help me a lot with organizing my thoughts and making that video a lot like what Rick is saying. So definitely, I will try to use that more as if not in the video, but for my own personal use. And Jeff says Jimmy C had us going earlier with a new. Yes, I did see that one. I mentioned it in the beginning a little bit. And Marco says because they don't tell a story, they're just pretty flowers. Yes, just pretty flowers. But still, you can make very impactful photos, right? Very stunning photos without having to tell a story. I mean, still, I feel like that one picture of the sunflower shows how delicate the petals are, and the flower in itself is a living thing, right? So you can kind of make your own story about how life is so delicate, right? In our own lives. What are the petals of human nature that are very delicate? I shouldn't get all philosophical, but you can read a story into almost any picture, I think. Uh, Randy's here. Hello, Randy. And I saw you had two more videos up on your YouTube channel, so I haven't watched them yet, but I intend to today. And Mr. Vacation says, I set a dandelion on fire. It came out pretty cool. That is cool. Interesting. Oops, accidentally showed that. I try not to show messages between you guys. Not that it's a big deal, but uh oh, David Tellit's here. My PowerPoint stuff for the exposure for beginner series were quite good. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was good. Let me show you what that I have a video on exposure. Let me see if that's in here. Wow, it's gone. Oh no, here it is. Here it is. Open. God, you guys got to see this. I've done so many PowerPoints. This is these were for clients, tuition rates and things. Uh my Panasonic ISO exposure math. I think this is it. This is one of them. Yeah. Yeah, I just grabbed some clip art off the internet and did stuff. This was a great video. My video on exposure for beginners, I really liked it. Part one was okay. Um, but part two I thought was really good. This was part one, the slideshows I just showed you. Hold on. Yeah. But thank you, David. I appreciate that. David is one of the most generous people on earth. I tell you, I owe a lot to David. Um, so thank you, David. I really appreciate your generosity. Um, Rob, you hit the exposure answer on the nose. Oh, thank you. And Brana says, never looked at the histogram. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling backwards on this. I'm with you, Brana. I rarely, I won't say never, but I rarely look at it. And thanks for the tips. I will try to photo flower with flash under some angle. We'll try to bounce the light. Okay, good. Kind of going back. And Randy's going to the mountains today. That's awesome. Bear with me, folks, while I scroll through. Hey, Rob, you mentioned before that you were thinking of making a video on aperture with the M43 as compared to full frame. Oh, dang, you're right. Aperture M43 versus full frame, or as Peter likes to call it, 35 millimeter. I don't know. I don't have a problem calling it full frame or 35 millimeter. Doesn't matter to me. Um, but he doesn't like to use the word full frame because, in theory, all our sensors are full frame, right? Okay, I made a note, Phil. I will add that to the queue, meaning the short-term queue, because I promised that a long time ago, months ago. But I've had a couple of months of like just this unbearable pain in my neck, literally pain. But now I'm good. I'm down to like some days I don't need any ibuprofen, other days 400 milligrams. But when this was kind of at its peak, I was like on 2,400 milligrams a day, and it was just barely tempering the pain. Hence, I skipped a whole week of live streaming altogether. But anyway, um, you do all this and you go and change it all in post. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, Errol, but yeah, there's a lot of pictures that I don't like, and I was never planning on using, like that photo of the sunflower. Um, Let me pull it up real quick, because a lot of you guys join like midstream and don't know what I'm talking about. But like this image here, right? Um, this image here. Oh, let me just reset it. This was the original image. This sucked, right? But I changed a lot in post, and now I have an image that I actually like. Um, so it turned into this, which I actually like this one. Other than I need a little more in the blacks, but yeah, that happens a lot. A lot of the images in this folder or this collection that I created, I didn't like the original image very much. Like like if you look at this one, I thought this was a pretty good, this is actually a decent image now, right? But if you look at the original, let me save the snapshot real quick. Um, that's the original. It's not very interesting. It's just a field of these bales of hay. So yeah, I'm like all the time, not all the time. I try to get it right in camera, but I went through years of photos and tried to find ones that had potential, but I never published anywhere, like on Instagram or Facebook. And this image of the this field of bales of hay was one of them. That man, I took this years ago with my Nikon 2015. This image here. Never showed it to anybody. I just took the picture because I thought it was interesting, but then it's just kind of blah. And then I turned it into, this, right? Or this. I added a little bit of blur back here to kind of miniaturize things. So yeah, definitely I'm going to be doing that a lot this week, taking photos from my past that I never liked and seeing if I can pull something out of it. But generally, I try to do things straight out of camera. So if you look at my Instagram, 99% of all my Instagram are usually straight out of camera JPEGs. Um, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but it's okay. It's just for fun, Instagram, right? It's not like I'm trying to make money off Instagram or anything. So I just put everything up there and see what sticks sometimes. But I think it's important to show what you start with straight out of camera before you start processing. And so many photos you see on Instagram have been processed to death, and you have no idea. Um, where's my window? No, not that one. This one. Nope. Nope. Yeah, this is it. But whenever you see me post something like this is, I'll put right here straight out of camera JPEG, and I'll put all of the settings that I used, what camera, what lens, etc. Um, and if we look at the raw image, it's not very interesting, but I was able to manipulate the camera, the picture using the settings in the camera, and this is how I shot. Half the pictures I did that day was using this camera and lens with these settings, etc. All right, and let's see. Lewis, hi, or Marco says, I agree with you. I love some of my photos just for the textures. They're simple things. Yep, I agree. Or you agree with me and I agree with you. Uh, and Lewis says, hi, Rob, came late, but I'd like to know your thoughts on the Ollie 9 to 18. Want to compare it to the Canon 10 to 18 or Nikon AFP 10 to 20 for image quality. Any thoughts on it are welcomed. Peter Forsgard just did a video on that 9 to 18. I haven't watched it yet, but every video I've seen on that lens, because I don't own that lens, has been excellent. Everybody loves that lens. And the Nikon 10 to 20 is another lens I don't own. Or the Canon, because I've never shot Canon really, not DSLRs. So I don't have any direct experience that I can share with you, but I feel like if you're a Micro Four Thirds shooter, Olympus shooter, you won't be disappointed in 918 against any other lens that Olympus offers. By all accounts, it's a very, very sharp lens. You just have to think, why are you buying this kind of lens, right? Because that's a very wide focal at 9 millimeters, and then kind of normal at 18 millimeters. Um, would you be better off buying two primes rather than this zoom? All the decision making processes you have to make when you buy lenses, I guess, because that's not a cheap lens, the 918, which is why I haven't bought it myself. Uh, because it's like a $500 or $600 lens, and I have other lenses that kind of fill that niche anyway, more expensive lenses, but um, but they're much faster. I have the 8 millimeter 1.8 lens, right, which I use in my professional work. So I didn't see a need to buy the 9 to 18 for myself. But maybe one day. I'm waiting for the 8 to 25 to come out from Olympus, which they've kind of promised on their roadmap. So we'll see. But yeah, I wish I could give you more. But that's all I can tell you is I don't think you'll be disappointed if you buy it. Stephen Long, hello. And I'm gonna go back up to that. Okay. 11:10. So I'm still about 12 minutes behind. That's for Marco. Rob, check whether your thoughts on the Voigtlander 10. Okay. That's another lens I don't have, but it's it's a heavy lens. I looked at that lens. It's heavy, right? And I I vaguely remember seeing a video on it that I decided not to get it. I think it was by David Thorpe. Let me see. David Thorpe, the Voigtlander. Theo, I don't know if I spelled that right, but okay. Voigtlander. No, it wasn't David Thorpe. All right, if you're going to watch a review on a lens, this guy is good. Matthew Gasqui. Okay, this guy right here. So let me put a link to that video here for you in the chat. This guy's really good. He has a lot of experience with gear and Micro Four Thirds, so he'll give you a really good review. I haven't watched this review. I may have, but it's been a long time. But definitely check that out. Oh wait, that's the Voigtlander Nocton 10.5. Yeah, this is it. Uh, so whatever he recommends on the, if he says buy it, get it. If he says don't buy it, don't get it. Long story short. I mean, you got to do your due diligence. Don't only look at his video, but if you're only going to watch one video on this lens, I would watch this one. Okay. Um, Randy says 8 by 10 would be the fullest. Yeah, I bet there's bigger than 8 by 10 out there, but I haven't seen it. And what is this? Rick says, Red 35 for some speed talking lessons. He talks so fast it's exhausting. Your slow American granddad talk is very relaxing. No idea what you're saying, but fun. Thanks, Rick. I know Jimmy's a fast talker, isn't he? I mean, he's a and then I would be curious to see if there's software that you can download that'll count how many words per minute somebody talks. But I guarantee he's double my speed. I guarantee. And then he does his 2.5 hour live streams on top of that. So he's getting twice as much information out of his mouth than I am in the same amount of time. Jimmy's awesome, though. And Peter says, for me as a beginner, your tutorials are beyond excellent. Oh, thank you. Especially as many use the M10 too, which is the camera I have. Yeah. And you know, that's why you don't see a lot of tutorials from me on like the EM1 Mark III, the EM1 Mark II, because those are more pro grade, expensive cameras, at least when they came out. Well, they still are. I shouldn't say, but the price of the M1 Mark II has come down to less than half what it was, right? But those users generally don't need a step-by-step tutorial, right? They kind of have a good feel for aperture, shutter speed. They know what they're doing already. They're very competent photographers. They just need a little time to get used to where all the buttons and controls are. Whereas somebody buying an EM10 Mark II, that's an entry level camera. This might be their first legit interchangeable lens camera. And all of these concepts are new, right? Mode dial, exposure comp, the terminology and the language of photography is also could be very new as well. We talk about aperture and f-stop and shutter speed and um, like I said, the exposure comp. We talk about dynamic range. We talk about, I don't know, histograms, all this stuff, right? It can be very, very confusing to somebody that's just been taking pictures with their cell phone. So that's why I did a lot of tutorials on the EM10 Mark II. And now I try to use my EM5 Mark II as the base camera because the settings are very similar, if not identical, to the EM10 Mark II. My EM10 Mark II has been regulated to this overhead cam. It's right here with the kit lens because it's getting a little bit flaky. The EVF doesn't work right. The mode dial is kind of flaky, but it works great as just an overhead cam where I can kind of jiggle it. But if I'm out in the field, I don't want a flaky camera, so I use my EM1s or Pen F now. I may have to get a new Pen F. I hope they come out with a Pen F2 soon. Let's see. And it says, they are informative and so easy to follow. I've downloaded all of them and found the memory stick. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, John, you'd say, see, I knew there was a bigger one, the Polaroid 20 by 24. Wow. I assume that's inches, Man, that's big. You tell him, Ellie. Where did she go anyway? I shouldn't say her name. She'll come running in here. Micro, full, fuller, fullest, and fullester. A name for 4/3 would be. 110 is making a comeback. Really? I thought I saw a 110 camera on Amazon, actually. I didn't click on it, but next time I go into Amazon, I'm going to have to look at that camera. A 110 camera. I was like, I didn't even know they made 110 film anymore. Oh my gosh, Errol, you're 81, man. That's awesome. I keep you interested in photography at age 81. Holy smokes. That's awesome. I should be so lucky to live that long. Um, Oops, I hit the wrong button. But thank you, Errol. I'm glad I can expand the photography community and keep it interesting. And yes, Rick. Rick is saying use PowerPoint as a auto cue to prompt me without showing the slides. That's a good. I never thought about putting the slides on autoplay while I'm making a video because that's almost like scripting. Um, Usually, what I do is I do clips, and then yeah, I guess if I really start to get on a roll and cranking out videos, all of these little aids that you're suggesting make a lot of sense. Um, I'm sorry, I didn't show that comment, but that's what Rick was saying. Um, and Randy says on 4/3 rumor they have Olympus full frame camera as April 1 joke. Oh, okay. It's always so bright when I wake up. Hi, Dave. How you doing? I think people were asking about you in the last stream. Like, where's Dave Nelson in the photo editing streams? I think. I think it was they were asking for you. Is that right? You weren't in the last live stream, right, for photo editing? Rick says, go back to sleep. And Jan, how are you? Says, hi, Rob. I haven't had much time lately, so I forgot about sending you the email about the photo review suggestion. Oh, that's right. It'd be like photos we send you before or during the live stream. Yes. Um, so let me write it down on this notepad because when I put it in the notepad on the computer, when I shut the computer down, it erased the file, all the notes I took that day. So I'm just going back to my notepad method now. Viewer photos in live stream. But I did give that some thought though. Uh, Actually, I was thinking I'd start off with a couple of viewers coming into my stream live while we go over their photos and they can tell a little story about each photo, right? Um, and then we can promote their Instagram or website or YouTube channel if they have one towards the end. But I thought it'd be a nice little 15-minute to 30-minute like short interview with one of you guys, one of my viewers that have a tremendous like experience, like I did with Rick Bear a few months ago. I always wanted to do that again, but Rick's video was a full on, that was an hour and a half or so. But I was thinking about doing shorter ones, like I could have maybe two or three viewers come into my channel, because like right now I could send the link out in the chat section and you guys can call in and I can put you side by side on the video, right? With me, and then I could share screens, or you could share a screen showing your photos and talk about them, kind of like I did with Rick, uh, last year. And but do it in shorter clips, 15, 20 minutes per viewer. Because like I said, you guys are a lot of you, most of you are probably much better photographers than I am. Just look at my Instagram; it's nothing but crap on there. I mean, some of them are okay. There's one or two keepers, but for the most part. Uh, when I look at you guys and your Instagram and the kind of pictures you guys are taking, I'm always impressed. I mean, they're just excellent. Um, so that was the thought I had as an extension to what Jan was saying here. Rather than you just sending me photos and showing them, actually have you come into the stream and talk about how you took the photo or a little bit of story background, like a behind the scenes or background about that photo. Um, and then do two or three guests in a stream. I don't know. What do you guys think of that? I don't know. If you're interested in that, just email me, you know? If you want to be on my stream and share some of your photos and the story behind the photos, might the story might be how you took the shot, like you had to climb down into a ditch and point the camera up, or the story might be about the what you were thinking and the technical side of things, how you got that shot, what you did in post processing, whatever you want to tell about that photo is fine. But I was thinking about doing that, so just email me. Here's my email, just in case. So rob@robtrek.com. If you guys want to come into my stream, um, just shoot me an email. Let me know you're interested. And in the stream, you can be audio only, or you can be video and audio, right? If you don't want to have your face there, I can just do audio only. But so it'll be like a phone call, right? But I thought that might be kind of fun to have some of you guys in the stream. Okay. I forgot where I left off. I see a question here, but let me go back up. Yeah, so I left off here at 11:28. And how do you guys like this behind the scenes view? I've been doing this more recently. Uh, But anyway, let me keep up before I get distracted again. Um, yes, Jimmy did an April Fool's on the Pen F. Yes. And Rick has some feedback about the histogram. The histogram is extremely useful if you ever get into technical photography, but may raise two complications for hobbyists. Keep things simple and fun. Yes, I agree. I mean, I can imagine product photography and landscape photography. Those guys are heavy into using the histogram. I don't. Even though technically I do product photography with real estate, I still don't use a histogram. And DeMorgan says, I've been making some videos using OBS, but need to learn it better. Yes, I use OBS for a lot. All my all my videos where you see me sitting down here in a chair, right, like in the streams, those are all done with OBS. Well, I did a 5-hour live stream showing you exactly how I made a video, right? That was a long ass video. And Jan says, or I'm sorry, Dave says, ETTR, histogram, etc. are all just tools you need to work with, not rules. Just saying. Yes, I agree. The more you know, the better. And Jan says, I have a neck problem too these days, just as I've had the hardest week at home at work since summer. Yeah. Oh. Luckily, I'm in a position I don't have to work. You know, I can lay down all day if I want to. Had I had to go into an office, man, I'd be wearing my neck brace every day. I have a neck brace that I wear before and after the stream. And I can tell it's made a difference because when I first started wearing the neck brace, I always felt like my head was up, you know, and straight. But now when I put the neck brace on, it doesn't feel uncomfortable or awkward. It feels like I'm, you know, my face is pointing straight ahead, so to speak. It's definitely making a difference in my posture wearing that. So it's developing. I wear it now not so much because I need to for pain, but I'm wearing it to improve my overall posture going forward, so I don't get this problem again. Uh, there was a question about something, a question about pricing something. Here it is from John. What would be a good price for a used EM10 in excellent condition these days? Suggestion on where to find. Uh, right now, you know, you can probably find cheaper on eBay. I haven't shopped eBay in a long time, but Olympus, the Olympus outlet, let me give you the link to this. This is a great resource here. They have an EM10 Mark II. Here's one. Yeah, EM10 Mark II black body with a 14 to 42 kit, reconditioned. And these cameras are practically brand new. Out of stock. Ah. So if you go on the eBay, I would knock off 20% on this price. So you should be able to get a similar camera for less than $300 in excellent condition. But if they had them in stock, you could buy it with a like a 30 or 90-day warranty for $349. But yeah, I would knock 20% off whatever price you see on the Olympus website, and that would be a great price on eBay for an excellent condition type camera. So I reference this site all the time. Like 60 millimeter macro lens, 319, right? Let's see if they have any. Because this lens has been on my short list forever, out of stock. So I would bet on eBay if we take 20% off for 60 bucks, right? This would be about $250 on eBay, right? So let's see. Let's start Olympus E-M10 Mark II. Ah, my recently viewed items. You can see all my Star Trek stuff. I'm a big Star Trek nut. See, here we go. Buy now 400. That's too much. $395. That's not bad. 278. That's not bad either. Here you go. That looks really good. Comes with a kit lens. That's Canadian dollars. So I think that's fair. So that's the benchmark I would use. Try 60 at macro. 350 is too much. 400 is too much. 450. Wow, they want too much for these. Those are brand new though. If I wanted a used one, only 7 used. Wow. Well, you get the idea. $350 or less for mint condition. To me would be a good price. Oh, Tony says try MBP. That's cool. MPB. I'm sorry, MPB. Yeah, there's other outlets like Robert's Camera and MPB, KEH. But that's where I start is I start with the Olympus refurb site, then I knock 20% off that, then shop everywhere else. Okay, and Stephen Long says my Mark III EM10 Mark III does not have a microphone connection. Yes, it does not. So what I use is this. You have to sync it back in post-processing. This is an excellent recorder. This is the Olympus VP10 stick recorder, and what I like about it is it has you see the little notch up here at the top, right here. This thing. This when I stick this into my shirt, this gives the microphone very good proximity to my voice, so the audio is very clear. And then I can start and stop it with my thumb, just clicking it on and off with my thumb here while it's in my shirt. So whenever I start and stop, so what I like to do is I start the recording on the camera, then I start the recording on this little VP10, and then you clap, right, 2 times so that you can sync these things in post. And then when I'm done with the clip, I stop the recorder first, then I stop the recording on the camera second, so that when I'm going to post-processing, all of my audio clips fit inside of the video clip. And that's my workflow using an external recorder. And of course, you know, if you need to do different kinds of audio, this microphone works really well too. A nice shotgun microphone, very narrow. You know, it's a super cardioid, so you probably can't hear me too. When I put the microphone sideways, right, you won't hear me too well. See, it should be pretty quiet on this end, other than the software doing adjustments. But software-wise, I just use DaVinci Resolve for my photo editing. DaVinci Resolve also has like an auto synchronizer built into it. I never got the hang of using that, but because it's easy enough to do it manually, but it does have an auto synchronizer too for video and audio. And let's see. Errol says, I still have my Ollie OM1N I used for astrophotography. Wow. Yeah. Good old day before digital. Yeah. I know Ben was telling me he started like on an OM1, and the OM1N apparently was popular astrophotography camera for film cameras. I can't. Ben was telling me about that. I think in the live stream that was a great camera for astrophotography. I can't remember why, other than it was fully mechanical. Um, but yeah, interesting. Like I said, you guys have been shooting forever. I really only got serious about photography in 2012. And you guys have been doing this since I was born, many of you. Oh, Jean-Marc is here. Good to see you. Robin in neck brace looks like Darth Vader. No, I look pretty silly though. Oh, I have to look at that. Yeah. That's why, when I was doing flower photography, I recommended, the most important gear is a portable bench or stool that you can take with you so you can sit down and take pictures. Because I have a video on flower photography, and I said one of the most important pieces of gear is this stool right here. It collapses down, you can take it with you. Because definitely it's backbreaking doing flower photography, macro photography. So just get a little stool or bench that you can bring with you, a little chair that folds out. They're like $15 and will make it a lot easier. And Map Camera out of Japan is a great vendor. And another, oops, sorry. I meant to show this one. Never heard of Map Camera, but that's good to know. They're probably an eBay vendor. And did anyone else see OMUK tweeting at Rob Truckman? Really? Did they tweet my video on moon photography? That's cool. I had no idea. Rick is the guru. It's the glass that counts. It all starts there. Yes. Uh, Wolf Tick, how are you? Well, you've been awful quiet this whole stream. Time is it? Oh, I need to. So it hasn't been quite 2 hours yet, but anyway, I still have the M5 too that will let go for 300 plus shipping, and we'll even throw in a 40 to 150 for good measure. Wow, that's a good deal. That's a great camera. Yeah. So message chat up Wolf Tick, not chat up. I shouldn't say chat up because I think that means flirt in British language, right? If I say I'm chatting up somebody, I'm flirting with them. I think because I used to watch that show Coupling, and that's where I learned that term. Chatting up somebody is flirting with them. I love that show Coupling. I think it's one of the funniest shows. I'd say I'd put IT Crowd and then Coupling. They're just about equal, but because I'm a nerd, I would go with IT Crowd a little bit more. If I wasn't a nerd, I'd probably like Coupling a little better. Anyway, and I want to reiterate Rick's point here because Rick has tremendous amount of experience, professional photographer, uh, meaning he's earned money from photography for a long time and has tremendous experience and is a very accomplished person in many fields, not just photography, but in many fields, and is very respected, okay, where he is by his colleagues and businesses. Uh, But this can't be said often enough, right? However expensive high tech, something better will come out tomorrow, right? No, no kidding, right? Getting the best out of your kit is investing time and effort and learning how to use it. Don't keep spending. And that really is the best advice that you can give a beginning photographer is learn to use the camera that you have. I mean, buy a camera that if you want to buy it, you could do really well with just a cell phone, right? But if you buy a camera with controls because you like the form factor and the kind of controls you get with a real camera, it'll really expand your photography. You want to take photography seriously, I think you need to get a real camera. But I'm not putting down cell phone photography at all. It's just a matter of different preferences in terms of form and how you can manipulate your images, right? Or manipulate ways to get your shot. But anyhow, you could get an EM10 Mark II with a kit lens for $300 and and do professional photography. You can go. Well, let me rephrase that. You can go nearly as far as you want to ever need to go with the EM10 Mark II in terms of photography. That camera doesn't limit you at all because it has every control and feature that you could ever want as a photographer. And the M5 Mark II just adds weather sealing basically, and then the M1 Mark II adds dual card slots and better image. There's tiers, right, of gear. But if you just want to go out and take pictures and learn photography, you'll get excellent results with an EM10 Mark II and a kit lens. Okay, you don't need to buy anything else. Maybe a 40 to 150 kit will expand your photography even more. And then once you've mastered that and gone as far as you can with that, there's really no limit, right? You can take that camera with you to the far reaches of everything in photography because it has everything that I can think of that you would ever need. And getting more expensive gear or like the M5 Mark II or EM1 Mark II, Mark III, they just add more convenience features, things that make certain types of photography easier to do, or types of photography that might be almost impossible to do otherwise, like pro capture. But that said, those are just convenience features. They are not photography. They are things that help make photography a little easier, but it's not photography. Everything you want to do in photography, you can do with an EM10 Mark II. Just saying. Okay. Um, the heck is beeping at me? I don't know. See, like Randy knows, right? Randy just bought an EM10 Mark II. He has been buying he's been buying EM1Xs like left and right, giving away his EM1 Mark IIs to his sister. He doesn't. But he just got an EM10 Mark II and he loves it, because that camera does everything, right, Rick? I mean, I can't think of anything you can't do with that camera. There's a lot of people that use it for astrophotography, which is the most challenging photography of all types of photography. That has got to be the hardest one. Um, but anyhow, Rob Shoot Photos says the 60 macro is worth every penny, and he would know because he uses that thing to death, man, and gets great results. And Serge is asking for wildlife photography, is CAF with cluster area F better than? I cannot answer that. My guess would be no, because the cluster technology is using the same probably algorithms as the continuous autofocus with tracking, right? Uh, so the guy that knows is Matthew Gasquet, though. Mirrorless, what is it? Mirrorless. comparisons, I think. I think that's his website. Yeah, and then E-M1 Mark II focus. This is one article. I'm going to put this up for you, Serge. Definitely check this article out because I think he does compare. Let me just go right to the bottom. Where's the short answer? Oh, he somewhere in this article, he does tell his results. Uh, Dang it. Maybe it's not this exact article, but it's related to this. I gotta find that article in bench and book markets because people ask me this kind of question all the time, and that's just a link. I think somewhere in this article, he does give his hit rate comparing the cluster area versus the CAF, and I don't remember what his hit rate was. His best hit rate was using the 5-point center focus and continuous autofocus without tracking was his highest hit rate. So that's all I remember from that article. So I never used the cluster area or the tracking. I know the tracking sucks because I tried it myself. So I can't imagine the cluster area is any better because it's using the same algorithm to figure out what to put where to put the clusters of autofocus. But check out that guy's website. Start with that article, but I know he has an article that talks very specifically about this question. And the end result was I think he was getting like a 60 or 70% tracking rate with the cluster area, if I remember correctly, but I don't quote me on that. And Steve Page says learn the focal lengths of your lens, i.e. the sweet spot of focus, then everything else will drop into place. That's interesting. It's a little bit too broad of a statement for me to understand what your point you're trying to make. Because when you say learn the focal lengths of your lens, that would imply it's a zoom lens that has multiple focal lengths. And in a zoom lens, there will be a sweet spot where it is sharpest. There's a very sharp combination between aperture and focal length in a zoom lens, and then everything else to drop into place. I don't know. I'll leave it out there for you guys. I'm not quite sure what Steve is trying to say there, but I don't disagree with anything he said. But the last part there, everything else will drop into place. I'm not sure what you mean. Uh, Tony's talking about you don't need macro, just turn your lens around and hold it against the mount. Yeah, I've done that. I in one of my macro videos, uh, that I did on macro, I did do that. And you can buy reverse rings too to put your lens to actually mount your lens. But you don't need to do that because most of our lenses actually fit, you know, directly. And then you just move the camera up and down to get focus, right? Just up and down or back and forth. Um, or just buy extension tubes and you can retain autofocus. That's what I do. And that's really close-up photography. It's not true macro photography with extension tubes. But I think Rob shoots photos. I saw him use extension tubes on your 60 millimeter macro, if I remember correctly. In reading one of your posts on Instagram, I remember reading. Yeah, man, I know what you're talking about, Randy. I got like one or two exposures left on 4 or 5 different cameras, film cameras. Well, let me see. One, two, three, four. Yeah, I got 4 film cameras that all have just a couple of exposures left. And I need to finish them before, because I don't want to take them in one at a time. I want to take them all in as a group to the camera store and get them developed. Ugh. You think it'd be easy to go through 24, 36 frames, but it's not when you're shooting film. I don't know why. It's so hard. Yeah, we saw that today, Steve. Yep. Um, yeah, Rick, you and I are on the same page here, man. There are a couple of lenses on my short list, the 40 to 150 Pro and a 60 macro, right? And between the two, I mean, both of them are, there's a big price difference in the two, but I really can't spare a few $100s right now. Things are just kind of lean, but uh, I keep giving myself reasons. I don't really need a 60 macro lens because I can just use extension tubes or the lens reversal if I want to do macro, and that's good enough. I'm not a hardcore macro guy. But if I had a 60 macro, man, I would love it. Same thing with the 40 to 150. I'm not really I got the kit 40 to 150, the $99 one. I know it's not as sharp, but I'm pretty happy with that lens. But man, I would love to have a real 40 to 150 f2.8. And that's really expensive now. I should have got one when I had the chance for about 800 or 900 bucks, but I didn't pull the trigger on a used one. All right. I think what is it? 12:06. This is a good time to wrap things up, I think. Um, Rob says he does use extension tubes in addition to the macro lens, about a 20% increase. I don't stack tubes because you can get odd reflection inside the tube. Yeah, if you buy the cheap ones like I do, yeah, you do get some reflections inside the extension tubes, which causes flare and stuff inside. So yeah, I know what you mean. Stacking them can be a problem. I think the high end extension tubes have felt inside to mitigate a lot of that reflection. But at some point, you're creating a bigger image circle inside the camera. I don't know how much you can mitigate beyond the extension tubes if there's flaring coming from other parts of inside the camera box, the sensor box. Having a live stream called photography chat ain't gonna cure your gas. Ain't that the truth? Um, so I think I'll end it here. So hey everybody, thanks for joining me today, spending a couple hours with me. I really appreciate it. It's always the highlight of my day to do these streams, and I try to help you guys as much as you can, as much as you guys have helped me. And like I said, just email me if you're interested in maybe being in one of my streams and featuring some of your images and your Instagram or your website or YouTube channel, um, and talk about that. I think that would be kind of a fun thing to do. We can actually see you or hear you at least. Because sometimes when I watched Randy's videos uh, on YouTube, it was so weird hearing your voice. I was like, wow, just not what I was expecting. I don't know why. You when I see your picture or your chats, I have this voice in my head that says, this is what you're supposed to sound like. But then when I actually see or hear it, it's like it's totally different, right? But okay, I am going to head out. So I have a couple of notes for some stuff to do this week. I'm really going to try and crank out some videos. Um, outside of the live streams. But either way, you guys have a great weekend. I'll be back on Sunday. Thanks for being here. We'll see you again soon. I had trouble ending my stream last time. Where is the button? Oh, here it is. All right, you guys have a good one.